What is up, Bills Mafia? Welcome into another episode of Shout, football podcast covering your Buffalo Bills. I'm your host, Matt Perino, joined as always by my co-host, Ryan Talbot, and we have a very special guest tonight. I've had the pleasure of getting a chance to talk to Kevin Smith, former NFL running back, now mentor to the next generation, a few times over the course of the last couple of years since Devin Singletary was drafted by the Buffalo Bills. Kevin coached Devin at Florida Atlantic. Now he's at Ole Miss. Kevin, my man, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, man, great to be here. Thanks for having me, fellas.
So what's summer been like down in Florida? Because obviously we see all these stories about how bad things are down there. Has it been a real struggle to train this off season?
Yeah, initially I'm back in Mississippi now, but we first went on spring break, and the pandemic of shutting everything down happened at that time, and it was it had to be some quick thinking as far as what we were going to do training wise, because all the parks were closed, all the gym were closed, so you really had to go back to what you grew up in, and that was having some grass and some concrete and being creative, and so we found a way to get it in, and actually in a major way.
One of the really, cool parts about an off season like this, if there are any cool parts, because it's such a travesty, so many people who have been affected by the pandemic and lives lost. And there's a lot of sad parts about this. But one of the cool things is, like you mentioned, kind of getting back to your roots. It seems like this has been kind of, for a lot of football players, this has been a chance to really, get in tune with yourself and what you need to do to improve. And so for you, for the guys that you've been working with, whether it be college athletes or guys that are in the pros, what kind of lessons have been learned in the last few months during this period?
I mean, just starting off with the pandemic in itself is a lesson. And I think, I can speak for the masses when you say we've taken life for granted at times, just the ability to wake up and breathe normal, speak to people, touch, feel, and show those, types of signs of endearment and friendship. And, like you said, there were lives lost and so many people lost jobs. And so I think first and foremost, for the guys that were training in hopes of, whether that was the NFL, college, in hopes of being able to get back something that we thought was automatic every time we wake up and brush our teeth. And I think we all realize that, we can't take anything for granted. And I think for the guys that I was training, it fueled them. And a part of the training, especially when it comes to, Devin and, Gregory Howe, guys that I've coached in college, a lot of our training is mental, and it's a therapy along with the physical aspect. And so, while we're doing some extreme training and, going up hills, we're reminding ourselves that, can we stay committed to the process without being emotionally attached to the results? So I heard that from Inky Johnson 20 minutes before I walked out to train them one time. And that kind of describes our training session and how we attacked this summer, and really, how we did it with the appreciation that we don't even know what's going to happen next. And I think that, especially when it comes to Devin, it was beautiful. This offseason, this meant something.
What lessons can you give Devin based on your own NFL career? And looking back, what would you say went right or wrong with your career? Or is there anything that you would change maybe about your actual NFL career?
Absolutely. I share. I love Devin and all my former running backs, but I share the good, the bad, and the ugly with them about the NFL lifestyle, starting with finances and not being financially educated and knowing what to do with your money, and not realizing that, after week 16, for me, except for 1 year, there were no more paychecks. And so understanding what to do with your money and how to manage and how to really progress from college to the NFL financially, taking care of your body, being a pro. So me and Devin are owners of Pro Mindset, and it's a lifestyle. And that's what I share with every athlete that I come in contact with. It's the things that, I didn't do so well as a pro, such as being a pro, carrying myself in the building. I thought I was a talented player. Obviously, if you know my history, I got injured and it derailed my career. But I don't think that I was the best pro and the best person I could have been in the building. When I tore my ACL, when they drafted Jarvis, I was a good teammate. I've always been a good teammate, but my attitude wasn't the same. So, collectively, there were a lot of things that I would do different. Uh, but all those experiences are why I coach. And the guys that I come in contact with, the guys that I have at Ole Miss right now, whether it's the dream of playing in the NFL or not, it's about having a pro mindset, appreciating everything that you have, and really being a good person, doing things the right way. When it comes to my career, that kind of was what it was. Injuries are what they are. But if I could change anything, and it's like, what do you know now? It would be to continue to grow kind of off the field and handle my business a lot better. And that's what I strive to give back to the athletes, just, teaching them how to do things and trying to help them put themselves in a position for success on and off the field.
It's so funny looking at your hoodie and your Instagram account. If anybody doesn't follow Kevin, I highly recommend it. On social media and on Instagram, you always see whenever you post a picture or something, that pro mindset. And what really sticks out to me about that is, the people that you also surround yourself with. Obviously, you're close with Frank Gore. I got a chance to spend some time with him during his season in Buffalo. And it's I almost feel like he's that perfect example of what pro mindset is supposed to be. No matter what it was all season long, the guy is just absolutely unflappable. So now, fast forward a year, we talked when it was all starting at the beginning of 2019. When you talk to Frank now and the conversations you've had throughout the season, what was that like for him to spend that year with Devin, and how beneficial was that for both of them?
I mean, what a gift. The irony in that is I've always, had the utmost respect for Frank, and he took me under his wing when I was a rookie. We're basically from the same neighborhood in proximity in Miami. And, I've always looked up to him. And so when Devin was a sophomore, when I first got to FAU, I would always call him and be like, because Frank is a football lover. And I would always call him and tell him, look, I got this bad running back, man. He's a bad boy. He's a bad boy. And, he would, I checked him out. He would, whatever. Fast forward, and he gets drafted, and he's on the same team, and they're working out together. And he gets to have a year being under Frank's tutelage and learning exactly what I'm trying to give to the athletes that I come in and encounter with. And it's the Frank Gores. It's the LeBron James. There's so many Tom Brady. There's so many models of having a pro mindset, how to go about your business. Everybody's story different. So there's many people you can pull that fits this pro mindset. As many people that you can pull that fits this pro mindset lifestyle that's had different paths. I mean, you say Frank Gore, and that's the person I love to talk to people about because of where he's gone, where he comes from, the learning disabilities that he's been able to, overcome, 2 knee surgeries, and he's a bad boy. And it's done it for a long, long time. And it's so hard to do, let alone do it with all odds stacked against you. So, this is what it is. And there's so many people of so many, races and sports and business people that fit the message that we're putting out. And it's to be a pro. It's who you guys are right now.
Ooh, I think we lost Ryan there for a second.
So it's lagging down here. My apologies. One thing that had the Bills Mafia talking during this very long offseason, and it has to do with that pro mindset, are those workouts with Devin Singletary on the hill. Some fans are like, keep them away from the road. Other fans are just raving about the explosiveness, the stop and go. Based on those workouts and what you've seen, how much muscle do you think he's gained this offseason? And then where did he get the motivation to do those workouts day in and day out?
First and foremost, that's who he is. The motivation comes from the hustle. You know, we always talk about the dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately. How he goes about his business, I think he's motivated by the grass, motivated by the opportunity. And so, you know, going up those hills and doing those crazy workouts, we put together what we call play drives. And, you know, I would put together a series of, you know, various cuts, but I'm talking 6 weeks, 4 days a week on the hill, didn't miss one day. And, you know, we're giving these variations and we're calling them opportunities. So opportunity number 2, drive 3, because that's how you need to think when it's third down, you know, third quarter, nuts on the line, on an away game in a hostile environment, and this is your opportunity to perform. And so, as far as the muscle, and you know, I'm not big into sports science, but you can clearly see him and see his body change. You know, he cut down fat. You know, he's rocking his abs now, and one of the things we focused on a lot was his core. And so we beat that core up because that's injury prevention. If you want to get faster, it comes from the core. If you want to be the most conditioned athlete in the NFL, it comes from the core. You know, look at Christian McCaffrey. I mean, you know, so we were in attack mode, and, you know, I don't want to speak for Devin because he doesn't talk that much, but the way I describe it, I want to represent his energy and who he is. And it's a humble beast. He worked, like I said, didn't miss one day. We went 6 weeks straight up a hill. And, you know, we loaded it up. Okay, we got to a certain point, week 4, we tapered it down a little bit, switched up the variations, loaded it back up, and you know, he I guess he was motivated by the pandemic, but he took it to another level.
One guy that we talked about last year was all the tape that you showed Devin at Florida Atlantic of Barry Sanders. And it's funny, I tell people all the time when they ask me about Devin, whether I'm on radio shows or whatever else, his running style, there is that flavor of Barry Sanders in the way that he moves, like, you know, especially his upper body, which obviously moves, you know, with what he does with his lower body. But one cool thing about Devin's game, and this has been a big talking point all offseason about how the Bills were going to address around him, building around him. And it's, you know, one of the narratives is that he didn't break any long runs. And I wanted to get your take on this because from my perspective as, you know, very amateurish, you know, film watcher, one of the reasons I think he didn't break a lot of long runs was because when he was breaking tackles, a lot of that was happening right around the line of scrimmage. I feel like if he's able to kind of maybe seek out some first contact at 5, 10, 15 yards down the field, that's when I think he could become a real, you know, home run problem for defenses. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. I think it's a combination of both. I think it's that and the actual play speed. So the more reps you get, the more comfortable you're going to get. And what we did talk about, you know, so I have PFF. I watched all his plays. And so when we trained, I could accommodate his training style based on at least what I saw and what he felt on our conversation about what he needed to fix. And you know, some of those are a little bit of confidence, whether he's breaking a tackle in the backfield and then having to exert more energy, or like some runs, I think New York, going into the red zone, he had the safety one man to beat, he kind of nodded him. And, you know, it's all about, to me, the angles that he was taking in the NFL. And I think, you know, if you have a guy running you towards the sideline, unless you straighten up and make him force you to tackle him, he'll just run you out of bounds. And I'm not sure if that makes sense. But to me, when I watched this tape, a lot had to do with the angles and him just trusting himself and running vertical and eating up, call it chewing up grass, chewing up as much grass as possible. But, you know, with this offseason that he had, he's going to be explosive. The long runs are going to come the more my man gives him the ball as well. That's no shade either. I just think about that playoff game. Jesus. Come on.
Seriously.
Come on now.
Well, you know, you just mentioned explosiveness and all that. So what are your expectations for Devin then in 2020?
again, I told him this, and I never really tell him I have interviews, but I spoke to him earlier, and I told him, and I don't want to put that in. I tell you what I've been whispering. I've been whispering all pro. I've been whispering all pro, and I believe, again, it doesn't really matter about individual stats. He's never going to be that type of guy. But if he has that type of season, along with the additions that they made to the Buffalo Bills, with that good defense that they play, they'll go places. But I'm saying all pro. I'm saying that he's worked for it. He has the ability. It's on him to put it together. And so we'll see. But mine are all pro.
I'm so glad that we got a chance to catch up with you, because I feel like you're the perfect person to talk to, with this very uncertain time. Obviously, what you guys are dealing with down at Ole Miss is a completely different animal, because we're really wondering how we're going to stage college athletics this year. But, from a young player standpoint, whether it be rookies, second-year players, guys trying to make a team in this kind of new look training camp and preseason, where there's actually going to be no preseason, what are some of the challenges that you see for not only players but teams in this process as we try to work our way quickly to start a season with really no lead up time?
I think it's going to go hand in hand. Just, speaking from a player's point of view, coming in for rookie minicamp, OTAs, being a young player, learning the playbook, getting a feel, allowing the coaches to get a feel for me. You're getting new players that you think you know how to use, but that you really haven't put on the grass to know if that's for sure. So, it's just one of those things where you have to adjust. And, I think I saw some of the NFL coaches, I can't remember the name, was talking about the draft and how the pandemic was, there were challenges with the draft. And it was like, we have time, we'll be ready. And I think from a big scale, that's really all that matters, if that makes sense. Like, there will be some challenges. Everybody's will be a little bit different, but no one's got a chance to get on the grass. So it's been harder for players to feel comfortable in the system, and it's been impossible for coaches to get a feel for the players that haven't been there. That is college, NFL, so on and so forth. So, but we're professionals in the NFL for a reason, and in my case, it's Division I football. So, proceed as such and do the best job you can.
Obviously, we have a very proud UCF alum on the show today, so I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about Mr. Gabriel Davis, one of the
Yes,
best
sir.
receivers to ever come through UCF. What can you tell us about him if you're familiar? And I know a lot of fans are really excited. He brings kind of a different mold of receiver to the squad.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of my teammate at UCF, Brandon Marshall. And I got a chance to see Gabe when the Bills came down and some of the guys worked out in South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I was there just watching. I saw him, and he looked good, looked comfortable. He looks like a pro, acts like a pro. I told him I was proud of him. I was transitioning out of UCF when we were recruiting Gabe. So I was a part of that process. And from Sanford, Florida, know his story well. And every time we played him, FAU versus UCF, I always, showed him some love, and, we made sure that we talked. So I'm happy for him. I think he's a good player. I think he fits the growth of the Buffalo Bills and what they're trying to do offensively. So I'm excited that, we got alumni paired with my with baby boy, and I'm ready to watch him rock out.
We had Joe Kroom on the show. Were you able to meet him down in
Kevin?
Florida?
You just mentioned coaches aren't going to know what.
I did.
Oh, nice. Sorry, Ryan. Let me just having a little bit of a back and forth
I
here.
know.
It's all right.
We talked to him. We had him on the show. He kind of took us inside those Florida workouts. And, for somebody that's been in the NFL locker room, I mean, how rare is it not only to get 22 guys together in an off season like this, like, coming from all these different places, but the connectivity and the continuity that seemed to be present on that practice field. I mean, that seemed like a pretty special 3 days.
They had it going. And when I say going, like during their drives, like, I mean, I don't know who the quarterback is on the roster. Tall guy, kind of remind me of my ex-teammate, Dan Orlowski. I don't know how old or young he is, but he had his mustache and looked a little older, but I'm talking about organized personnel in and out. They took it serious. I mean, you wouldn't have been able to tell. It looked like, there were coaches there. They were moving and doing their thing and communicating. and getting on the same page. So, I mean, again, you have these times that people aren't used to, and so you got a chance to see some professionals, the Buffalo Bills, get innovative and continue to get better as a team.
So one thing you mentioned a minute ago was coaches aren't going to know what to expect with some of these rookies in the NFL. And one rookie that the Bills drafted was Zach Moss. So how important is it going to be for the Bills to lean on Devin early in the year while they get Zach kind of used to the system and figure out what his strengths are and how to complement Devin properly?
I think it's all about timing, and who knows? I mean, I watched his tape. I thought he was a good runner. So there's some players that can come in and have an immediate impact. There's some guys that you can just hand them the ball and they're a spark plug. They're a bowling ball, or they bring something that's present and immediate right now, and they come with batteries included. So I think just that time or that kind of will reveal itself. I mean, it'll come out. But I think, from what I saw, his tape at Utah and, Devin and, they'll be fine in the backfield. They all just got to continue to get better. They'll be fine.
His Zach's big quote kind of made my eyes pop a little bit. He said after they drafted him, he's like, "Yeah, listen, the thing with me is when defenders tackle me, they got to make a business decision." And I'm almost like, he's almost a perfect guy to combo with Devin because, I mean, first of all, they're both could be tough to handle and take down. But, Devin is kind of a little bit more of that shifty back where I think Zach can bring a little bit more power and physicality. And, and I think people forget about TJ Yeldon. I mean, you've been, former second round pick from everybody I've talked to, everybody in the building is a big fan of what TJ brings. I mean, they have some real talent, depth wise at the position.
Oh, absolutely. And now that you mentioned that, I forgot TJ was there, still on the roster, but I'm a big TJ Yeldon fan. Obviously, Lane's my boss, and I always tell him he's one of the top three. I won't go in order, but he's one of my top three backs to play at Alabama. Derrick Henry's in there, but I was a TJ Yeldon fan when he was rocking that 4 for the Tide. So I'm a big fan of his. I hope he gets an opportunity to do his thing, and collectively, just enough for them to keep on progressing. It's no secret I'm a Buffalo Bills fan.
So tell us a story before we get out of here. What's a fun story back from your NFL days that, really sticks out about what it was like to be, in that world and kind of, just kind of like from a fan's perspective, those eye-opening moments where it's like you got to pinch yourself like, man, I'm in the NFL. It's pretty cool.
Well, I'll tell one that I tell they had, you go to the rookie dinners and you go out and based on your draft pick, they'll stick you with a rather normal large bill. And so we had our dinner. It was my time with my running backs, my vets, and we go out and we're getting ready to they tell me, hey, 9:00 we'll meet at the spot and we'll have dinner. Then you got the bill. I'm like, okay. Can't wait. I get there at 9:00 and they hand me the bill and walk out. And I'm like, they like, thanks for dinner. It was like, cool. That I realized I was in the NFL when I was stuck with a $6,000 bill, especially with no one at the table to eat it with.
That is awesome. Really, really cool. This has been Kevin Smith. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and talk a little bit about Devin. Big year 2 coming up. Led the league in yards per carry last year, 5.5 per touch. I would imagine he's going to have himself a big year again this year. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, fellas. Be good.
Take care, Kevin.